everyone, and welcome. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Bastoyahe coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Tonight, we have live updates from several of our correspondents in the country. I'm Alin Ramos in Washington, D.C.
President Trump praises latest jobs report, and Washington, D.C. gears up for the largest fireworks display.
Chime Sauka in Waldorf, Maryland.
Governor Hogan announces $190 million in federal aid for COVID-19 relief.
Myla Simbulan in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
Develops on a bipartisan bill removing work barriers for people with criminal convictions.
Eagle News correspondent Stephanie Ward reports about San Antonio adding more safety protocol mandates for businesses, closing parks, and canceling citywide 4th of July celebrations. Anna Cui in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak extends Phase 2 in Nevada.
Keisha Rose LeBen in Santa Clarita, California.
Los Angeles introduces COVID-19 threat level system.
And Angel Membrere in Sacramento reports about an increase in COVID-19 cases, prompting the Wear a Mask awareness campaign in California. Plus, tips on how to deal with quarantine fatigue or quarantigue. But first, an overview of how the world looks now. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursday, July 2, 2020, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 10,700,000. This includes more than 2,700,000 in the U.S. Sadly, this virus has claimed over 518,000 lives worldwide. This number includes more than 128,000 deaths in the U.S. The UN Security Council on Wednesday unanimously adopted a resolution calling for a halt to conflicts to facilitate the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic after more than 3 months of painstaking negotiations, diplomats said. The resolution, drafted by France and Tunisia, calls for an immediate cessation of hostilities in all situations on the Security Council's agenda. It is the Security Council's first statement on the pandemic and its first real action since the outbreak started. Tunisia's ambassador to the UN, Kais Kaptani, hailed it as a historic achievement, but experts questioned whether the text would have any impact and say the paralysis undermined the Council's credibility.
The resolution is not only the result of a compromise between China and the United States, rather the result of a compromise between the 15 members. I think the enormous stakes of this resolution have meant that each member has particular concern, of course, with different degrees. And we made every effort possible to grasp those concerns and turn them into opportunity.
Repeatedly blocked by China and the United States, which opposed a reference in the text to the World Health Organization, the resolution aims to support an appeal in March by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres for a global ceasefire. It calls upon all parties to armed conflicts to engage immediately in a durable humanitarian pause for at least 90 consecutive days in order to enable the safe, unhindered, and sustained delivery of humanitarian assistance. Fighting against jihadist insurgent groups is excluded. The new text makes no reference to the WHO, which the U.S. has criticized for its management of the crisis. Washington opposed any mention of the WHO back in May. The Security Council's paralysis for more than 3 months has been widely criticized, including by some members who have described their shame over its inaction. During the negotiations, the United States and China, the two largest financial contributors to the UN, had both threatened to veto resolutions. Work crews acting on the orders of the mayor took down a second statue on Thursday of a Confederate military figure in Richmond, the Virginia city that was the capital of the pro-slavery Civil War South. The statue of Matthew Fontaine Maury, a Confederate naval officer, was seen in televised footage being lifted off its stone base by a crane and placed on a flatbed truck. A statue of a Confederate general, Thomas Stonewall Jackson, was taken down in Richmond on Wednesday as a campaign to remove Confederate symbols gathers momentum across the country. Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney ordered the immediate removal on Wednesday of Confederate statues on Monument Avenue in order to expedite the healing process for the city. The mayor said that as the Southern capital during the 1861 through 1865 Civil War, Richmond has been burdened with that legacy. Stoney said, quote, "The great weight of that burden has fallen on our residents of color. And these statues, although symbolic, have cast a shadow on the dreams of our children of color." Stoney called the move a down payment rather than a solution to racial injustice in the city and across America. President Donald Trump praises the latest jobs reports. And Washington, D.C. gears up for largest fireworks display. In Washington, D.C., Imelin Ramos has the story.
Thank you, Alan. Today in Washington, D.C., President Donald J. Trump gave high praise regarding June's U.S. jobs report. In his press briefing, he states, quote, "I'd like to just announce the spectacular news for American workers and American families and for our country as a whole. There's not been anything like this, record-setting. It was just put out that the United States economy added almost 5 million jobs in the month of June, shattering all expectations." Let's take a look at the president as he describes the good news as not being just good luck.
This is not just luck, what's happening. This is a lot of talent. All of this incredible news is the result of historic actions my administration has taken working with our partners in Congress to rescue the U.S. economy from a horrible event that was formed, took place in China, and came here, and they could have stopped it. They could have stopped it. Nobody likes to write that, but they could have stopped it. They know it, and I know it.
Amid the coronavirus pandemic was far higher than economists were expecting and showed the rapid pace of gains as people who were laid off returned to their jobs, especially in hard-hit sectors like leisure and hospitality, which accounted for just under half of the increase. It is indeed good news when jobs are added to our economy, but a resurgence of outbreaks, particularly in the U.S. South and Southwest, has forced many states to reverse their reopenings, moves which could soon push unemployment numbers back up. On another topic, I think everyone is looking forward to Independence Day. This is a favorite holiday of so many people. With social distancing, masks, and other protocols set in place, this Independence Day will be very different from those that we've experienced before. However, as major news outlets are reporting on Independence Day, there will be a grand celebration here in Washington, D.C. This is what the Department of Interior mentioned in a press release. Quote, "Today, the U.S. Department of Interior and National Park Service announced additional details about the Independence Day celebrations on the National Mall, which will include multiple flight demonstrations from different branches of our military, in particular the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds and the U.S. Navy Blue Angels, and a monumental firework display. President Donald J. Trump and First Lady Melania Trump will host the 2020 Salute to America on the south lawn of the White House and Ellipse on Saturday, July 4, 2020, which will be live streamed on whitehouse.gov and other news organizations. The National Mall and surrounding areas will remain open and available to the general public for prime viewing of both the Salute to America flyovers and the annual fireworks demonstration. With the ongoing pandemic and the large crowds that would be gathering for the celebration, an objection was raised from DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, who said in a news conference, quote, "We've communicated to them that we do not think this is in keeping with the best CDC and Department of Health guidance, but this event will take place entirely on federal property." In a press briefing held yesterday, President Trump's press secretary was asked by a reporter about the objection of Mayor Bowser and if the administration should be following local guidelines for the upcoming celebration. This was Kayleigh McEnany's response. Quote, "The president has said that we should follow our local authorities with masks, so that's the decision, that he encourages people to follow those authorities. The CDC guidelines, I'd also note, say recommended but not required. And we're very much looking forward to the 4th of July celebration." So it appears that the president is encouraging that those attending the celebration should follow local authorities. Let's hope that the people who will brave the crowds will follow that advice. In Washington, D.C., I'm Malin Bondoc Ramos. Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
I'm Lynn. This sounds like a very festive and big celebration. What other details can you provide for this celebration?
Yes, Alan, based on the press release of the Department of Interior, there's a lot of cool activities happening. They mentioned that there will be flyovers that feature aircraft from World War II. Also, according to the press release, the firework display will be one of the largest ever. They said more than 10,000 fireworks will be launched. It does sound amazing and exciting, but as much as I love fireworks, my family and I will probably just watch from the comfort of our home. Alan?
And Emily, you can probably guess that was going to be my follow-up question. So you'll be watching from the comfort of your home. Will you be watching online, or by chance will you actually be able to see the fireworks from your house?
Hopefully we can see it from our house. We have a balcony, so we're on the 6th floor, so hopefully we can see it from here. If not, online, as I said, there are various online portals that we can go. So, yeah, that is also an option. Alan?
Well, Eileen, break out the folding chairs on that balcony. Hopefully you and your family can have a private viewing of your very own 4th of July fireworks celebration.
And
thank you for the report. Barbecue too. You have to take some footage of that and send it to us.
I will. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Eileen. When we come back, more updates from our Eagle News correspondents. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Patindi ng patindi at tuloy-tuloy ang pagpapakita ng galing ng ating mga TNG aspirants.
You're just too good to be true. Open up, you came to get it wrong with a name, I should have drunk you back when I was a child.
Abangan ng kanilang performances sa pinakamalaking talent competition sa buong bansa, Tagisan ng Galing.
Tagisan ng Galing is presented by SMC Infrastructure, building a better world. Sanmig sugar-free white coffee, puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na Sanmig sugar-free white coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free. Vet-approved Nutrichunks, the only premium dog food with active boost for optimum energy and prebiotics that help strengthen immunity. Just like Catherine Bernardo, gawing listo, ganado ang fur babies niyo. Listo ganado sa Nutrichunks. Magnolia Chicken Templados, delicious, ready to cook and freshly marinated daily. Pure Foods Luncheon Meat, pure sarap for every family. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Walang duda, kids can tell na #1 ang Pure Foods Tender Juicy. Ang tender, ang juicy, ang sarap. Co-presented by Cooper, expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate NEPs and air conditioning solutions. Unlan Incorporated International. Fight against global poverty. New San Jose Builders Incorporated. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee. Masarap, mabango, at healthy pa. Puerto Rico Resort and Convention Center, Cabiao, Nueva Ecija. I love Puerto Rico. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, Matinco, R Square Variables Incorporated, Compizel Enterprises, Saisho International Trading Corporation, DN Steel, EMAC UPB Roof Corporation.
Hey, Gretchen Ho here, and I'm a white coffee lover. Creamy kasi, and very yummy. Pero mas masarap kung hindi nakaka-guilty. Check my new discovery, San-Made Sugar-Free White Coffee. Puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na! San-Made Sugar-Free White Coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free.
The successful development of TPLEX, or Tarlac-Pangasinan-La Union Expressway in 2009, a 4-lane toll road that extends from Tarlac City to Rosario, La Union, with an additional approved extension of 56 kilometers all the way to San Juan, La Union. This is expected to reduce travel time to Baguio and other provinces in northern Luzon. Realizing the vision of creating a better world for Filipinos fueled the team's focus.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutri-Chunks with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
Ikaw lang ang star ng buhay ko. Para sa akin, perfect ka. Ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Pag Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, sarap ng corned beef, inangat pa ng real cheese cubes. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basoyahe in Los Angeles. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan announces $190 million in federal aid for COVID-19 relief. In Waldorf, Chai Masaga has the story.
Thank you, Alan. Governor Larry Hogan announced yet again the allocation of additional $190 million to colleges, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. This brings to a total of $475 million in funding through the Federal CARES Act as critical investment channeled to the different sectors of the state's economy. Maryland's education program gets the lion's share of the relief, now amounting to $345 million to improve the local school system. Earlier this week, Governor Hogan earmarked an addition of $210 million to the previously allotted $45 million to, among others, update K-12 technology education across the state and address digital divide, especially among students mostly impacted by the pandemic. While the latest allocation of $90 million is intended to reimburse state-supported universities for any COVID-19 related expenses they have incurred, including support for their public safety activities. More small businesses in Maryland can also expect to receive this month up to $10,000 grant as working capital and interim relief from an additional $50 million allocation, which will also provide financial assistance to businesses owned by economically and socially disadvantaged entrepreneurs. Another allocation of $50 million will be used to establish the Maryland Nonprofit Recovery Initiative under the Department of Housing and Community Development to address issues on reduced revenue and increased expenses brought about by economic and safety impacts of the pandemic. From this award, $3 million will be used through the Maryland State Arts Council Emergency Grant Program to cover losses sustained by arts organizations and artists caused by modified or canceled programs and events. Committed to help the different sectors of the economy, Governor Hogan said that these resources will make a difference in areas they are needed most. Meanwhile, on the state's effort to ramp up testing, the Maryland Department of Health announced the appointment-free testing at the COVID-19 testing site at Glen Burnie Vehicle Emissions Inspection Program in Anne Arundel County. Starting yesterday, July 1, doctor's order will not be required for patients to be tested on Wednesdays and Fridays from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. until further notice to help those uninsured and those without physicians. Patients, however, need to present a valid form of identification and will receive their test results within 2 to 5 days via phone call, text message, or through a dedicated laboratory portal. The Health Department also announced the closure of several testing sites in Maryland tomorrow, July 3, which include the Baltimore Convention Center, in observance of Independence Day, but testing sites operated by local governments and private organizations could remain open. In Waldorf, Maryland, Chay Matsaga, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Chay, share with us some good news in your county. What outreach events were done to help students there in this time of pandemic?
Well, Alan, at the start of the pandemic, upon the closures of schools in the state of Maryland, in our county, the Charles County Public Schools started to distribute laptops to all students, teachers, and staff so that all students will be able to participate or attend in distance learning. And also the Charles County Public Schools had set up some hotspots in different schools' parking lots so as to allow communities without any access to internet for them to have access to internet so they could participate in distance learning, meaning online classes. Also, this summer, they are having these summer class activities and learning programs for especially for grade schoolers, where they have also set up some small groups, identify some students who need further instructions or teaching, especially in math and English. So through these summer classes, these students who have not attended distance learning or, below grade level are able to catch up with these subjects like math and English. Alan?
Chay, I think that a lot of times people take for granted that there are students who really are cut off from technology at their disposal. They don't have a computer, they don't have a printer to print homework assignments. And you mentioned that some even don't have internet. So with this federal aid that you spoke of, will some of that be used in technology for students?
Yes, Alan. One of the purposes of this award or funding for education in the state of Maryland is to update the technology education of the school system here in the state of Maryland, like updating devices and connectivity in the state so that even those in the remote areas of the state will be able to have access to internet. And we know we are conducting our classes virtually during this pandemic. So it's important that students will really have the devices and the access to internet. Alan?
Chai, did I hear you correctly in your report? And then you mentioned that a emissions testing center would also be used for COVID testing, or did I not hear that correctly?
Yes, Alan, you heard me correctly. That's in Glen Burnie. That's the vehicle emissions inspection program. We also have one here actually in Waldorf, where they use it as a testing site for COVID-19 patients. So the one I mentioned in my report is in Glen Burnie in Anne Arundel County, where they could accept patients even without doctor's order for testing. But that's only on Wednesdays and Fridays. Alan?
Okay, so at first I thought you could do a 2-for-1 and get your car smog checked and then get COVID testing as well, but probably good to keep the car not running while people are being tested. Chai, thank you so much for your report.
Thank you, Alan.
Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf signs a bipartisan bill removing work barriers for people with criminal convictions. In Swarthmore, Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan reports.
Thanks, Alan. Governor Tom Wolf signs Senate Bill 637, which removes outdated license bearers for those skilled workers with criminal records so that they can get a second chance and start new careers. Reforms to job licensing requirements and licensing boards proposed by the governor. 1 in every 5 Pennsylvanians need an occupational license from board or commission to do their job. This represents more than 1 million words, and due to outdated rules against criminal record, a person can be denied of a job license. This bipartisan law will allow people, especially those skilled workers, to have a better life here in Pennsylvania. In a nutshell, what is this all about? Here's Governor Tom Wolf to give an idea. Let's watch.
And we talk a lot about second chance. What this bill does is actually takes away barriers for people who are looking for that second chance. But as a former employer, I got to say that hiring people who did have a criminal record, they became wonderful employees. So to any business owner out there who's looking to this as sort of a mandate, looking to this as something that says we are absolutely changing the law and forcing something here, we're not. We're taking away barriers, and if you're a good employee, if you're smart, you're going to look for people who have had tough times in their lives and are looking for ways to prove themselves. And what I found is that they became very, very good employees. So, all right.
These are some of the improvements included in the bill for the 10 occupational licensing boards. A person's criminal history can no longer be used by the boards and commissions to deny someone a license under their criminal history. Individually consider applications based on the amount of time since the conviction and the applicant's personal progress and training, among other factors, before withholding licensure. Boards are required to create a public list of criminal offenses that prevent licensure. This will allow individuals to get a preliminary decision if their conviction is likely to disqualify them from licensure. Creates temporary licenses in barbering and cosmetology for entrance trained correctional facility. Here's Secretary of State Kathy Booker to discuss more about the details. Let's watch.
Thanks to this law, as Governor Wolf mentioned, a person's criminal history will no longer be considered a reason for them to be denied a license unless that history is directly related to the practice of their profession for which they are seeking a license. The Department's Bureau of Professional Occupational Affairs will be working with outside businesses as well as each of the 29 boards and commissions that represent over 100 professions licensed in Pennsylvania to identify which categories should apply for each profession. In addition, each board, in conjunction with the Bureau, will be required to develop clear criteria and processes to evaluate professional license applicants, including a defined process to assess actual substantial risk to potential clients or patients.
So this bill will truly help those skilled workers, even the employers and the economy as a whole, especially during this pandemic. In Spartanburg, Pennsylvania, Milo Singulan, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Myla, are there any restrictions to this bill? Say, for example, a registered sex offender. Can a person like that be issued a license?
That's a good question, Alan. Boards can issue a license to someone convicted, let's say, of a sexual offense to practice as a healthcare practitioner. So there are some restrictions, and then it doesn't mean that either a record, even though you have a criminal record, you'll get the license right. You still have to go through a lot of checking of your backgrounds as well. So yeah, like what Secretary of State said, there's still some restrictions, especially on the job that you're planning to do. That's why the boards and the boards and the commissions and the Department of State has to work together. Alan?
Thank you, Myla. We certainly look forward to hearing more from you as this story will undoubtedly develop. San Antonio adds safety protocol mandates for businesses, closes parks, and cancels citywide 4th of July celebrations. Eagle News correspondent Stephanie Ward in San Antonio has the details.
Thank you, and howdy to you from the Lone Star State. Here in San Antonio, Mayor Ron Nirenberg issued a 5th addendum to his 8th Emergency Health Declaration effective Friday, July 3rd, requiring all commercial businesses in Behar County to prominently display signs or posters listing COVID-19 symptoms near their entrances as a substitute for the temperature check mandate issued on June 30. Any person experiencing symptoms should stay home to prevent spreading the virus to others. All businesses must still require that customers and employees wear face masks where social distancing is not possible. The governor's Reopen Texas plan recommends all employers to conduct temperature checks, if feasible, on staff and contractors at the start of their shifts, and to send anyone home with a temperature of 100 degrees. Although not required, the city also encourages businesses to do temperature checks on customers if they have the resources and the capacity to do so. The order prohibits both outdoor gatherings and indoor gatherings and activities of more than 100 people, with some exceptions including recreational sports programs, professional, collegiate, or similar sporting events, swimming pools, water parks, museums and libraries, zoos, aquariums, natural caverns, and similar facilities, rodeos and equestrian events, amusement parks, and carnivals. These types of gatherings must conduct screening activities and follow health and safety protocols. Meanwhile, we shift gears to this 4th of July weekend. The city of San Antonio and Behar County announced that all city parks will be closed effective Thursday, July 2nd at 11:59 p.m. until Monday, July 6th at 5 a.m. All county parks and park amenities will be closed effective Friday, July 3 at 9 a.m. until Monday, July 6 at 9 a.m. Use of certain trails will be allowed for walking, biking, and jogging as long as 6 feet distancing is maintained. The official City of San Antonio 4th of July celebration and fireworks show at Woodlawn Lake Park is also canceled this year due to COVID-19 surges. Mayor Ron urged residents to celebrate responsibly, stating, "We have to remain vigilant to contain this virus. The actions we take now will ensure that we are all around for holidays and celebrations next year." In San Antonio, Texas, I'm Stephanie Ward, Eagle News. We are living in interesting times. Wishing you and your family a happy and safe 4th of July weekend. Back to you at the studio.
And a happy Independence Day to you as well, Stephanie. Thank you for your report. Up next, more updates from our correspondents. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Bawat araw sinusundan, di ka naman tumitingin. Anong
So please, take care of yourself. Keep your distance.
Wash your hands. And if you can, stay at home.
We at DW
are here for you.
We are working tirelessly to keep you informed on all of our platforms.
We're all in this together.
And together,
we'll make it through.
Stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Please, stay safe.
Makinig kayo sa aking payo. Ito ang tandaan ninyo. Huwag sasaksi sa mga bagay na hindi naman totoo. Huwag magbibitiw ng mga salita kung hindi ka naman sigurado, lalo't kung nakasalalay dito ang dangal ng isang tao. At sa mga nakikita sa internet, huwag agad maniniwala. Mag-ingat upang hindi kayo madaya. Dahil alam naman natin, hindi lahat ng balita ay tama. Maging matalino. Huwag magpapaloko. Mag-ingat sa pagpo-post, pagla-like, pag-share ng kung ano-ano. Dahil baka mamaya hindi mo na namamalayan, isa ka na pala sa mga taong nagkakalat ng maling kwento.
Hindi mo ba alam, mauubos daw ang mga tissue products? Bakit naman? Ang raw materials daw ng mask at tissue products ay iisa lang. Saan naman galing ang balitang yan? Ay basta, narinig ko lang din. Maraming dilim kayang nagpo-post sa Facebook at Twitter, kaya kung ako sa'yo, kumuha ka na din. Sige na't mauna na ako sa'yo
Huwag basta-basta magpaniwala
sa mga nakikita
o nababasa sa social media.
Magsaliksik at i-verify ang lahat ng impormasyon
Nakukuha sa internet.
Tandaan,
maging responsable tayo
sa paggamit ng social media
nang hindi magdulot ng panic sa iba.
Kung paanong dapat labanan ng COVID-19.
Ay gayon din ang ating pagsugpo
sa black propaganda
at maling impormasyon.
Dennis Lu,
Lou Omelda,
General Partosa,
Tyranel Pililu,
Hannibal Arevalo,
EBC,
Japan Bureau. We live in interesting times.
Accurate and fair reporting. Not only from Batanes to Tawi-Tawi, but also abroad. Detailed and timely stories relevant to people all over the world. Watch all of these at Net25, your reliable source of news, entertainment, and technology updates.
Protektahan ang sarili laban sa coronavirus disease o COVID-19.
Narito ang ilang paalala.
Takpan ang ilong at bibig sa tuwing babahing at uubo. Gamitin ang looban ng siko. Kung gagamit naman ng tissue, ay tiyaking maitapon ito agad sa tamang basurahan. Iwasang hawakan ang ilong o bibig. Ugaliing maghugas ng mga kamay gamit ang sabon at umaagos na tubig o magpahid ng alcohol-based sanitizer.
Gumamit ng face mask kung ikaw ay may ubot sipon. O kaya naman ay may inaalaga ang pasyente na mayroong simptomas ng respiratory illness. Itapon ng gamit na face mask sa tamang basurahan.
Sundin ang social distancing. Panatilihin ang 1 metrong layo mula sa ibang tao, lalo na kapag nasa labas ng bahay. Kung maaari ay umiwas muna sa mga matataong lugar.
Laging tandaan, mahalaga ang kalinisan upang sakit ay maiwasan.
It says the best defense is still containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
Final volume 450. Apply mo to 100%. Traffic ban. Construction eh. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basoyahe in Los Angeles. Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak extends Phase 2. In Las Vegas, Bureau Chief Anna Cui has the story.
Thank you, Alan. According to a recent press release from Nevada.gov website, Governor Steve Sisolak announced that Nevada will remain in Phase 2 of the Nevada United Roadmap to Recovery Plan. This was already anticipated as there has been a daily increase in the positive cases here in Nevada in the last 2 weeks. So the governor signed an emergency directive extending the length of Phase 2 through the end of July, not only because of the trends in COVID-19 infection rates that we're seeing now, but also to give time for expanded contact tracing to continue to identify trends, and also to see the impacts of the governor's new face covering directive that I reported 4 days ago. The governor was actually transparent from the beginning, to the Nevada residents, stating that we will have to be flexible, as flexibility is one of the core principles in the roadmap to recovery plan. And that's to account for the situation that we're actually in now. He stated, and I quote in this press release, he said, I've said repeatedly, the virus and our personal actions to help mitigate its spread drives the timeline. In addition to extending Phase 2 until the end of July, the directive provides that DMV documents that expired between March 12 and July 15 will be valid through September 13, 2020. Customers are encouraged to utilize online services as much as possible and kiosks whenever possible. Businesses that have not paid license renewal fees since the beginning of the state of emergency back in March will have a grace period through September 30, 2020 to pay without penalties. So, Alan, as you can see, there are positive things that's come out with the extending of phase 2 here in Nevada. Now, as far as our numbers, here are the recent statistics related to COVID-19. As far as hospitalizations, this is just compared to 3 days ago. We had 555, now up to 662. And that also includes an increase in ICU beds being occupied as well as ventilator use. The number of deaths has also increased from 504 to 525 compared to 3 days ago. Now, our overall positivity rate for the state of Nevada is holding below 7%. Today, according to the COVID tracking project, I checked that today, it's at 6.9%. If statewide trends do not improve or get worse, the governor will not hesitate to take any action necessary to protect the public and prevent exceeding our hospital capacity, which is the priority that they're really looking at. So far, even with the daily increase, we are holding. He's not taking any drastic changes, but he did say that if it continues and it's, with the hospital capacity, if that increases, then he'll have no choice but to consider reinstituting previous restrictions. In the meantime, properties here in Las Vegas, a few of the properties still have their annual July 4th fireworks display scheduled here, including Green Valley Ranch Resort and Lake Las Vegas. Because of this, Governor Sisolak issued a reminder stating that it is more important than ever now, especially this weekend, to remember that COVID-19 is still among us in our communities, and that in the last few months, the holidays and celebrations have resulted in an increase. The governor further reminded Nevadans and visitors, especially those who are coming from other cities and states, that it's critically important to wear a face covering when out in public, whenever we leave the house, and that wearing a mask is not a substitute for social distancing. In Las Vegas and Aquila Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
And what's been your observation in your area since the announcement of the governor to stay in phase 2?
It's mixed feelings, but ever since he, in addition to that extending in phase 2, and then a day before that, actually, he issued the mandatory wearing of facial coverings. I've seen more people wearing masks everywhere I've gone, to the stores. I would say it has increased the people that are wearing masks to probably 80% compared to 50% last month. So that's been good. And then what's interesting though is that some businesses, some workplaces are sending their employees back to the office, and then there are some who are actually going back to working remotely, because of the increase of the positive cases. So that's interesting that some business leaders have, different views on what's happening right now.
Right, and then I also noticed in your report that you mentioned the governor reminding residents in Vegas that COVID-19 hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there. I'm really glad you mentioned that, because that will actually be part of our discussion a little bit later in our broadcast. I certainly hope you'll be able to join us.
Yes, will do, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your report, Anna. Los Angeles introduces a color-coded COVID-19 threat level system. In Santa Clarita, Keisha Rose Labanan has the details.
Thank you, Alan. With a recent spike of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Los Angeles County, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti announced the launching of a new threat level system that was color-coded to warn Angelenos of the current risk of developing a coronavirus infection. The system actually consists of 4 threat levels: green, yellow, orange, and red. The red indicates that Angelenos should stay at home at all times due to the high risk and threat of contracting the virus. Green, on the other hand, would indicate that the virus is mostly contained with minimal risk. At present, Los Angeles County is currently on a threat level of orange, indicating that people should stay home as much as possible. The launching of the system is due to the recent surge of cases throughout the county, with worsening indicators being the increase in hospital capacity, significant increase in confirmed cases, and positivity rates from testing. Mayor Eric Garcetti stated, "COVID-19 has taken control, and we need to take control back. That's what we did in March, April, and May when we sacrificed, stayed safer at home, and saved lives. We need the same commitment to flatten the curve now." Now, with the upcoming 4th of July weekend and the current threat level at orange, all Los Angeles County beaches, piers, parking lots, and bike paths will be closed. In addition to this, California Governor Gavin Newsom also ordered new restrictions on bars, restaurants, and other businesses and activities to help slow the spread of the virus. All indoor dining in restaurants are again prohibited, but takeout, deliveries, and outdoor dining are allowed. Movie theaters, zoos, museums, and museums will remain closed at this time. And with the current surge and significant increase of confirmed cases in the state of California, travel restrictions are being implemented throughout the United States for citizens traveling domestically. U.S. citizens traveling from the states of high COVID-19 cases are now being required to self-quarantine for 14 days upon arrival. The states requiring self-quarantine from travelers are Alabama, Arkansas, Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Idaho, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, Nevada, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Utah. Now in Los Angeles County, the number of new cases increased with 2,204 newly reported cases and 55 new deaths. The total number of confirmed cases in the county are 107,667, with 3,454 deaths announced today by the Los Angeles Public Health Department. Meanwhile, the state of California now has a total of 204,195 confirmed COVID-19 cases and 6,163 deaths as reported by the California Department of Public Health. In Santa Clarita, California, Keisha Rose Lebanon, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Keisha, you talked about in your report self-quarantining for travelers. It's hard to imagine anyone with an extra 14 days to spend in self-quarantine. So how do travelers cope with, delaying what they have to do upon their arrival for an additional 2 weeks?
Yes, I definitely agree. It's something, that you really wouldn't imagine having an extra 14 days on your vacation. But I think, we all need to be reminded that this requirement are for travelers arriving from states that have a high number of COVID-19 cases. So if you're one of those people in those states, a popular alternative for crossing straight lines is probably just to go online instead. Now, that may not be ideal for family gatherings. I can personally attest to that. It's not the best. But at least for business purposes, video conferencing should just be as good as being there in person. Alan.
Keisha, you and I both live in Los Angeles County. Let's talk about the color-coded threat level system right now. I know plenty of Angelenos who don't obey the color-coded traffic light signal. Is there hope? Can we hope that they will know what yellow, orange, and red means for the threat level?
Let's hope so. I mean, hopefully they'll take this one seriously at least.
Okay. Well, at least I know there's two people who will, namely you and I. Keisha, thank you so much for your report.
Thank you, Alan.
An increase in COVID-19 cases prompts the Wear a Mask awareness campaign in California. Sacramento Bureau Chief Angel Membrere has the details.
Thank you. There has been an increase of cases in the state of California. And with that, the Office of the Governor of California has put into place an awareness campaign titled Wear a Mask, just in time for the July 4th weekend. This campaign includes a string of content in form of video, social media assets, as well as billboards. But here's a clip from Governor Newsom from a press conference earlier today discussing why wearing a face covering can make a difference.
It has been said that if you have your health, you have a million dreams. If you don't have your health, you have but one. And that's why today I want to talk about one of the most impactful things you can do to protect yourself, protect your health and the health of others, and more broadly, the community and our state. And that's the importance, the imperative of doing what we can to practice what we have been preaching, and that is putting on a face covering, wearing a face mask. Countries that have worn masks, that have had universal mask policies in place at the beginning of this pandemic, have seen a substantial reduction and mitigation of the spread of COVID-19 in this virus. States that have also mandated requirements, cities and counties, large and small, have also seen slower spread in comparisons to other states that have not adopted, or other counties and communities that have not adopted these standards. The evidence is simply overwhelming. Masks keep Californians healthy.
To give an update on the number concerning COVID-19, there are 3,558 positive cases and sadly 69 deaths in the Sacramento County, which brings the state's total to 6,174 deaths. We offer our sincerest condolences to all those who have been affected. And unfortunately, because there has been an increase in the spread of COVID-19, there has also been an increase in the positivity rate. And correlated to those numbers, in the past 2 weeks alone, there has been a 56% increase in hospitalization. Here's more from Governor Newsom.
Let's talk about that increase in spread. In the last 24-hour reporting period, we saw 4,056 cases that were identified as positive to begin the month of July. We have seen over the course of the last 14 days our positivity rate now rise to 6.3%. Again, it started 40.8%. When we did the first 14-day roll, we saw a significant decline in the positivity rate. Unfortunately, we're starting to see an increase in the positivity rate, not only over a 14-day period, but over the last 7 days, it has been 6.9%. Looking, though, at the 14-day period, I want to show you that trend line. This is why we have the mask mandate. This is why we're doing the PSAs. This is why we're encouraging you to take individual responsibility, more social responsibility to protect your family, your friends, and the broader community. But the slide you see represented here, that increase in that orange line represents a 37% increase in the positivity rate just over a 2-week period. Again, now over a 14-day period, 6.3%.
Now, as July 4th is this weekend, a holiday for many across the nation, people might have the urge to dismiss practicing social distancing. But it's important for us to remember that COVID will not be taking the day off. Here's a closing message from Governor Newsom.
Do what you think is best, not only for you, but for the health of those you love. Look at the epidemiology. Look at the spread of this virus over the last few weeks. Look at the fact that our hospitalization rate has gone up 56% in just 2 weeks. Consider the fact the ICUs have gone up 49% in the last few weeks. Consider that when you go about coming together, perhaps with members of your family or strangers or neighbors you haven't been with in some time over the course of the weekend, and just consider one of those stats may be you. And if you think this hasn't or won't impact you because it hasn't impacted you, I hope to disabuse you of that based upon not only the 73 lives that were lost in the last 24 hours, the 110 the previous 24 hours, or the fact that we are now experiencing unprecedented rates of growth of COVID-19. I hope you'll be safe, not because we have the tools or capacity to enforce 40 million individuals and their decisions and behavior, but because as a community, we're capable of doing more to meet this moment and to mitigate the spread. And so I am calling on the better angels and for people to use their common sense and do what they can to keep themselves safe, keep their loved ones safe.
In Sacramento, California, Angel Manbreri, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Coming up, things we can do to fight quarantine. We will return in a moment. This is Eagle News America. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News America. I am Alan Basoyahe in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles County Department of Public Health recently addressed the issue of quarantine fatigue, or what many are now calling as quarantigue. It is said to be experienced by a person who is not as motivated to follow pandemic health guidelines. But because we cannot not follow these guidelines, the LA Public Health Department says there are ways to counter quarantigue. These include changing your mindset, knowing the facts, de-stressing, and reaching out. Let's go ahead and ask some of our Eagle News team tonight for some ideas on how they can encourage others to consider these tips. And one of our guests tonight joining us is Rani Bayuga, all the way from Ohio. Rani, how are you doing? Can I ask you to answer the first topic here we have, changing your mindset?
Hi, Alan. Thank you for having me. Changing your mindset is actually try to get a little bit more educated about your frame of mind. And there are so many people today who are inundated with all this negativity in the news, and so it becomes a negative influence on them also. And it's nice to take stock on your own mindset to be more positive and try not to be so negative, because negativity can also affect your immune system. So that's something to try. I suggest for people to try.
Great advice. Let's stay positive, except for COVID case numbers being positive. That's the only thing we want to go down. Thank you, Rani. Thank you.
It's going to continue to rise until people take stock and follow some of the advice that we're receiving.
Excellent. Thank you, Rani.
Thank you, Alan.
Let's go to Anna Kui, because we talked about it during your report, knowing the facts. What can you share with us?
Sharing the facts, knowing the facts. So it's important to know the facts. I mean, you don't have to know what's going on in the world and related to COVID-19 if that's going to just, make you more anxious about it. So just at least know what's going on in your community. Maybe just there's information now that you can go online where you can actually check out what the trend is happening just in your community. So because it's important to know that will change. It goes along with changing your mindset, because if you know that you do have increased positivity rate in your area, it will motivate you to follow the guidelines more, right? And then also sharing it, sharing the facts. I do that at work, because some people are not following the news, and so I share with them, go check out the official sites. That's one tip too. Don't just rely on what you see pop up on your phone, on your social media. Make sure that you are checking, right sources, like Eagle News, right?
Right.
Back to you, Alan.
That's a perfect plug, and that's really journalism 101, right? We don't just go on social media and see what we think the facts are, or even like a celebrity says. We go to official sources. And you know what? I really appreciate, Anna, that you said knowing the facts is connected to all the other things we're talking about tonight, changing your mindset, so on and so forth. So thank you so much for that great advice. Let's go to Keisha. De-stressing. Keisha, what do you have for us?
Yes, Alan. For de-stressing, I would suggest doing, hobbies, things that you still normally did even pre-COVID, like working out. You don't have to go to the gym to work out. You can work out at home. There's actually a lot of Instagram and YouTube classes that are now free for everybody. So I think everyone should take advantage of that and still continue to work out to help de-stress. You can also learn something new, do something to help your peace of mind, do something to keep you sane.
Yeah, Keisha, I like how you said that. Do what you did before the pandemic, what you mentioned, working out. So if you worked out before the pandemic, work out during the pandemic, or in my case, keep planning to work out. I haven't done my New Year's resolution yet, but I'm getting there.
It's okay. I don't think you're the only one. I think everyone's doing the same thing. I think everyone gained the quarantine 15.
Thank you. Thank you for making me feel better. Thanks a lot, Keisha. Let's not go to the topic about reaching out. Let's go to Chai. Chai, what can you tell us about reaching out?
Yes, Alan. Reaching out, well, that includes, reaching out to your family, of course, especially if you don't see them a lot. You have to know their situation. You have to be assured that they're okay in this pandemic. But, Alan, if I may add to the changing your mindset.
Please.
Yeah, I think one of the best ways of dealing with this pandemic is embracing the situation. Like, accept that this is the new normal, so you don't get frustrated, that this is how it is right now. So, every time you go out, you have to you put a mask on, so you get used to it and you don't get frustrated because that's the new normal. And then knowing the facts, at the start of the pandemic, I was kind of I was so scared of touching things, and that borders on paranoia because I thought if I touch things, I would get the virus. Right. So you have to know the facts. Do you get the virus from eating it? Do you get the virus from, so you don't get paranoid. And then the stressing, of course. One is exercising, because at least when you exercise, you get the confidence that you're fine. You have a fighting chance against the virus. Alan.
Yeah, Chai, really, I appreciate hearing that from you, looking at the world, honestly, how it really is, so that we don't run away from the issue. Thank you so much, Chai. Well, now we have any one of these topics you can talk about. Myla, pick one of these topics and share with us what your thoughts are. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and move on to, how about let's go to Imelin. Imelin, I'm going to pick one out for you. My favorite of these topics is de-stressing. Can you talk about that?
Well, okay, de-stressing. Not the workout again, Alan. Not the workout. But definitely the most challenging for me is my kids. Well, the lockdown, when we were not allowed to go outside, it was definitely hard. My kids have super high energy that needs the outdoor play, to run, play ball, use the playground. So as a mom, the key word is I had to improvise. There was one time we made an obstacle on the living room obstacle race just so they will spend their energy. It's a challenging time. Distressing is also being creative and improvise on what you can do with the situation you're dealing with. So that's also one of the things to actually make me feel less stressed out. So I could do something with the situation that I can control, because the virus, we can't control it. At least we can control what is around us, what our situation is right now. And our house, at least with my baby right here playing. Well, that's it for me. Improvise, Alan.
Thank you, Imelin. Yes, I can totally agree. Make your room, living room, to an obstacle course. I tried doing the same thing. I pretended that the floor was lava, but I decided not to play because I have hardwood floors, and I didn't want to fall and hurt myself. Thank you, Imelin. Let's continue to thank our frontline and essential workers with a round of applause. We appreciate you. And another round of applause for our 2020 graduates. We are also very proud of you. That's today's Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Alan Basoyahe. We live in interesting times.